The January 6th hearings continue to provide shocking new revelations about the degree to which Donald Trump and his allies knew they had no evidence of election fraud, knew what they were doing was illegal, and still orchestrated a desperate plan to overturn the results by, among other things, submitting fake electors and harassing election officials. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Last week, the committee revealed the degree to which Trump's own team knew their plan to have Vice President Mike Pence overturn the election was illegal, but pushed him to do it anyway. And now the committee has revealed that Trump's team also admitted in private they had no evidence for their election fraud claims either.
At some point, did one of them make a comment that they didn't have evidence, but they had a lot of theories?
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say, and how did that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence. And I don't know if that was a gaffe, or maybe he didn't think through what he said.
Oh, did Rudy not think through what he said? I'm not sure he's ever thought through anything he's ever said in his entire life. In every interview, he always looks like he just called someone the wrong name on a date. I'm having a great time with you tonight, Lisa. My name is Deborah. I say that's my biggest faux pas, but I married my cousin. Where are you going, Deborah? I mean, Lisa. I mean, Deborah? Rudy didn't even think through why the 4 seasons he booked for a press conference looked more like a landscaping company than a hotel. He just let the press conference rip. Like, even if that was an honest mix-up, like, what did he think when he arrived on site? This hotel stinks. You call this a pillow? I do. That admission came in a conversation with Arizona State House Speaker Rusty Bowers, who repeatedly asked Trump and Rudy for evidence of their allegations, and they repeatedly failed to provide it.
During that conversation, did you ask Mr. Giuliani for proof of these allegations of fraud that he was making?
On multiple occasions, yes. He said that they did have proof, and I asked him, do you have names? For example, we have 200,000 illegal immigrants, some large number, 5,000 or 6,000 dead people, etc. And I said, do you have their names? Yes. Will you give them to me? Yes. The president interrupted and said, give the man what he needs, Rudy. He said, I will.
So Mr. Giuliani was claiming in the call that there were hundreds of thousands of undocumented people and thousands of dead people who had purportedly voted in the election?
Yes.
And you asked him for evidence of that?
I did.
And did you ever receive from him that evidence either during the call, after the call, or to this day?
Never.
First of all, I love Trump saying, give the man what he needs. He really does treat Rudy like his own personal manservant. Rudy Giuliani, the man who supposedly spent his tenure in New York taking down the mafia, and now he's basically running errands like the kid from A Bronx Tale, hoping to become a made man someday. Right away, boss! So shockingly, Rudy Giuliani never provided proof of his claim that thousands of dead people voted in the election. In fact, during one of these meetings, Rudy was apparently so desperate for proof, he turned to his fellow pro-coup cronies, like Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis, who kept telling Bowers they had the proof he was looking for. They just didn't bring it with them to the meeting.
At some point, did Mr. Giuliani ask one of the other attorneys on his team to help him out with the evidence?
He did. He asked Jenna Ellis, who was sitting to his right. He did ask, do we have the proof, to Jenna, Miss Ellis? And she said, yes. And I said, I want the names. Do you have the names? Yes. Do you have how they voted? We have all the information. I said, can you get to me that information? Did you bring it with you? She said, no. Both Mr. Giuliani asked her and I asked generally if they'd brought it with them. She said, no, it's not with me, but we can get it to you.
I mean, this is just me, but if I was preparing for a high-stakes meeting with a prominent Republican official to convince them to overturn their state's election results, reversing the will of 80 million people and potentially provoking a constitutional crisis, I mean, I think and again, this is just me, I think I'd remember to bring the evidence. Just me, that's just me. Oh, man, the evidence. Oh, man, I can't believe I forgot. In my defense, I had a terrible night's sleep. The hotel I stayed at did not have the best pillows. They actually thought they could get away with saying they had the proof, just never having it with them. These people are such bad scam artists. It's actually remarkable how close they came to overthrowing American democracy. In fact, even calling them scam artists is overstating the case. That's like calling this guy a sandwich artist. At best, you're a sandwich attempter. In fact, here's an example from yesterday of how bad they are at being scam artists. Senator Ron Johnson was trying to avoid questions from reporters about a scheme involving his chief of staff, who, according to the committee, tried to hand fake pro-Trump electors from Wisconsin and Michigan to a Penn State on January 6th. And when Johnson was approached by reporters, he was immediately caught faking a phone call.
How much did you know about what your chief of staff was doing with the alternate slates of electors? No, you're not. I can see your phone. I can see your screen.
Everyone knows you put the phone on the same side as the reporter. That's scam artistry 101. So these dip thought they could get away with convincing the Arizona State House Speaker to overturn the state's election results by just pretending they had proof and would definitely send it to him when they got around to it. They treated a prominent Republican official asking for proof of election fraud the same way I treated my dentist's nephew when he asked for notes on his screenplay. Oh, yeah, man, you know, I'm totally gonna get those to you. Just haven't been home that much. You were home for a full year. Oh, damn. Oh, I forgot that was on TV. Oops, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. You can... And yet, despite admitting in private they had no proof, Rudy and his gang still spread wild, unhinged claims of election fraud anyway. Like when they targeted Georgia election worker Shaye Moss, who testified at yesterday's hearing, and her mother, Ruby Freeman. Trump and Rudy became obsessed with an insane conspiracy theory that somehow involved Moss and Freeman tampering with the vote count.
We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly, 18,000 voters having to do with Ruby Freeman. She's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler. Ruby Freeman.
Tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shaye Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine. I mean, it's obvious to anyone who's a criminal investigator or prosecutor, they are engaged in surreptitious illegal activity again that day. And that's a week ago, and they're still walking around Georgia lying. They should have been questioned already. Their places of work, their homes should have been searched for evidence of ballots, for evidence of USB ports, for evidence of voter fraud.
I mean, this guy really is out of his mind. I mean, how much scotch can one man drink? I'm starting to think that wasn't hair dye leaking out of his head. It was Johnny Walker Jet Black. Of course, Rudy ended up being the one whose home and office were searched for actual evidence of potential crimes by the FBI. I'm going to guess there was nary a USB port to be found at Rudy's place. And in fact, if they found anything, I bet it was a cigar box full of old Subway tokens and foul balls he stole from little kids at Yankee games. Give me that, you little runt. I'm the mayor. Everybody loves me, and that's never gonna change. So, you heard Rudy make the insane claim that they were passing around USB ports at vote counting sites. So what were they actually passing around? Here's Shaye Moss's testimony, which was deeply moving and powerful, but also contained this truly insane reveal about what that USB port really was.
Mr. Giuliani accused you and your mother of passing some sort of USB drive to each other. What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
That's right, yeah. A ginger mint. Of course, doesn't surprise me Rudy wouldn't recognize a ginger mint. His breath probably smells like the inside of a hot dog cart. I mean, I guess you can't blame him. If he was sucking on a USB drive, it would probably still dissolve. I could definitely see Rudy confusing a mint with technology. I saw a video of poll workers passing around fraudulent ballots. It was on that social media site, TikTok. These guys knew what they were doing was illegal, and they knew they had no proof for their wild, unhinged claims, but they harassed, bullied, pressured, and intimidated people anyway. And they came very close to succeeding. It's very possible the only thing that saved our democracy from total collapse was the fact that Trump was surrounded by absolute morons like Rudy, whose brain is the size of
a ginger mint.
This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.